My kid and I raced BMX. Actually, interestingly, we started the same day. I got a Husqvarna. This is motocross, motorcycle motocross. And Yamaha had just come out with that mini enduro, so we'd go over and race at Indian Dunes. We didn't know Ernie Alexander at the time, but ironically, Ernie Alexander and Suzanne Claspy were running the motocross and the kids' motocross races over there. My son also rode bicycles a lot, like he could wheelie forever. Anyway, we went to see On Any Sunday, the movie, which is about motorcycles, but the opening scenes were of kids on bicycles with paper plates for number plates, making noises like motorcycles. And so right that second in my head, and probably a lot of heads, is where BMX, the seed was planted. Interestingly, I talked to Bruce Brown, who did that movie, and he had no thoughts of BMX. He lived down somewhere around Laguna, somewhere down south of Capistrano, I think it was. And some kids in the neighborhood were doing what kids were doing all over the place, pretending they're motorcycles. And so they're making noises like two-stroke engines, and they're lining up, and they're, you know, the two-stroke pipes, expansion chambers. And then they took off in a race, and that was the opening scene of, more or less, of On Any Sunday. The whole rest of the movie was great, but that scene right there is really, Bruce Brown didn't create BMX, but he planted this idea, the seed, in so many heads.
In '72, some motorcycle people that were friends of ours, and they all had kids, and they lived about a mile from us. Well, to keep us all off the street and out of trouble, one of the parents, because we were always hanging out, playing around, jumping and stuff over there, she decided to, let's have some organized racing here in the street. And she formed this thing called the Street Bicycle Racing Association. And it was basically just to keep us out of trouble. You know, we're 11 and 12 years old, and we're just starting to, you know, get in trouble, so to speak. And so she did that, and during the summer months off of school, we did it for 2 seasons. You know, we just had this little thing on the street that was a cul-de-sac. There's no problems from cars and stuff like that, and that's what we did. And that just kind of kept evolving from that, and what that was a direct offshoot of On Any Sunday.
We were all riding BMX, so we needed some place to race, and I got the idea to race in our hometown. Actually started in the street and then went into the dirt in Chatsworth South and then around Chatsworth Reservoir. I just got the idea basically from motorcycle races that I used to see and guys riding motorcycles in the neighborhood. I was working at Canoga Cycle Center, so I knew all the kids that were riding BMX back then, so decided to put a race together. I knew everybody was going to come and race. It was just a fun thing more than anything. The first race was in '72, and it was during the school year, so we had it on a Saturday. And there was probably about 30 or 40 guys, the kids from the neighborhood that raced. They had a lot of help, and it was just a fun event, very successful. So we handed out first, second, and third trophies, and then went to the local bicycle shops in the neighborhood. There's probably about 5 shops that we knew of that were close by, and we told them about the race, and I talked to the owners, and I asked them if they'd like to donate. We'd put their names on the flyer that we sent out to the school. That's how we got people to sign up. Eventually, during the second and third race, I was printing about 200 of those and handing them out, and had other riders and friends handing them out at school. Some of the guys that raced in those early races that I had were guys like Bill Ford, Paul Garcia, Lloyd Hollabo, Jeff Hayes, Steve Stockton, John George. They were endurance races because it was about a 15-mile loop. But it was hilly area, especially around Chatsworth Reservoir. And then we'd take them into Chatsworth Park and then also into the horse trails at Woolsey Road, which was another big downhill that we like to do. So they'd have to go up the street and then ride the dirt down. And Chatsworth South had all kinds of little trails, a lot of rock. So that section was more like observed trials on a bicycle. It was kind of tricky. And when those guys are tired from riding on the street, you know, for a half hour, and they get there, you know, they're dumping it left and right. It was fun to watch.